Hey everyone, I just wanted to do a quick video to do a little analysis of the media coverage of last night's election. First, two things. There was a narrative that started hearing right about the time that we saw the election swinging towards Trump. And that's when they all started saying, well, it looks like Trump could win this thing, and everyone thought that Hillary had it in the bag, and no one thought that Trump could win this thing. It's just, how could we have all been so wrong? Nobody saw this coming. This is a lie. The fact of the matter is, many, many people predicted that Trump, if we had a fair election, would probably win this election, including yours truly. It reminds me a lot of back in 2003 when they came out and said that everybody knew that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. Nobody questioned that fact, when in fact there was many people, including yours truly, who said that no way Saddam Hussein could have had weapons of mass destruction. And there was many people, including Hans Blix, the head of the UN, the weapons inspectors that spent a year and a half there on the ground, the Russians, who really are in charge of the nuclear program. So it's just insane. Some of the things that you hear from the mainstream media. They always use these narratives where they say everyone knew that something was a particular fact. Despite the fact that there's overwhelming evidence that there are many people who question these media lies. And yesterday was just another prime example of that. So having said that, I was monitoring about 12 different sites last night, some corporate mainstream and some on the internet, and I found that there was one that was particularly really, really good and one that was particularly really, really bad. So first, I thought that the best coverage and analysis of the election last night as it was playing out was with a guy who has a YouTube channel, which is under the name Styx Hexenhammer 666. He gave really great analysis. I kept going back to him because he seemed to have a really good grasp of the specific voting districts as they were playing out as it was going through the night. And he really had that down. And he did a great job. So really, 2 thumbs up to Styx Hexenhammer 666. Fantastic job of analysis last night. The worst, by far, last night was the Young Turks. I mean, it was literally embarrassing. They should go back and watch that broadcast that they did last night, and I think even they would be embarrassed for themselves. It was just absolutely pathetic. Now, I check out some of Young Turks not because I really like them all that much, mainly because I want to troll them, but it was horrible. I mean, it was the worst example of journalism that I have ever seen. And these are people who put themselves up on a pedestal as being not part of the corporate media, and that they are purist journalists, and they really hammer that on their channel. But they were so unprofessional. They were like babies who someone had just taken their toy from them. Just they're crying and whining and the anger, and just you could just tell Jink was just completely, I mean, he was just completely off the hook. I mean, the guy literally, he should have excused himself from the broadcast. He should have went home and drank a 5th of whiskey and, just taken the night off, because I mean, he was horrible. All of them were. It was just bad. Jimmy Dore, even he was, he was more shocked than anything, but it was just really bad. But I've come to expect, I had very low expectations with the Young Turks anyway. CNN and MSNBC, of course, are exactly what you expect from CNN and MSNBC, and they were the 2 biggest culprits of the narrative that no one saw this coming, and they acted so shocked when they began to see the election going Trump's way. And it's very funny because they have all these expert analysts, especially, I think it's NBC that has this Wang guy, this Asian guy named Wang, who came out just at it was like dinner time, like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, came out and said, oh, well, my computer model says it's a 99 or 98% chance that Hillary's got it in the bag. It's really not even a close call. And then these very same analysts who they bring on, who get everything wrong, then they have them on later and the next day to tell you why they were wrong. It's like, if you're going to have people come out and they're that fucked up and they're that bad and they fuck things up that bad, why have them come back on? And you want us to listen to them again? If they got it wrong so bad the first time, why would we want to listen to them a second time? You would think that this would, this thought process would find its way through their brains, but it never does, because you see this repeated over and over and over again. They get things completely wrong. They bring in these political analysts who are so-called experts. They fuck it up completely, and then the very next day or next week they bring them back to get their opinion of why they fucked it up so bad. And then we're supposed to accept their new analysis is credible. It's mind-boggling. Fortunately, I'm humored by it. And I mainly go to these sites to troll them. Not because I, believe anything they have to say or trust in anything they have to say. I mean, they are the corporate mainstream media. They're fucking embarrassing. And I really believe that MSNBC and CNN, I believe, their ratings are not very good as it is. And I believe they really, really did themselves tremendous harm. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb here and make a prediction. I believe that this is the last election. This 2016 is the last election that we're going to see where the mainstream corporate media is even really going to be much of a factor. I believe when we get to 2020 and the next election, it will be the independent media that will be dominating what people watch and pay attention to. And it has a lot to do with how bad the corporate media has gotten. Unless they change their ways in a real hurry, I think that they are a dinosaur, like the old other forms of old media, newspapers and things like that. I think they are literally going the way of the dinosaurs. I really do. I think we're living in a completely new paradigm. I believe we're right on the cusp of that, and I believe that it's been building over the last two election cycles. In 2008, we saw some of the power of the internet. 2012, a little bit more, and we saw Obama use it to his favor. But we really saw Trump use social media and the internet in a big way. And of course, the corporate media, which is mostly liberal, really, they really outdid themselves this time. It's even for a lot of liberals who watch these networks, even they can't help but notice how biased and how bad these people really are. It's really, really obvious at this point. So that's my prediction in the future. Fox was Fox, I'm not a fan of Fox. I got to be honest with you. I'm more of a libertarian-minded person, maybe conservative, true conservative, classical liberal in a lot of ways. But I've just never bought into the Fox thing. I've never really bought into it. I'm no fan. The only guy, like 2 or 3 guys there at Fox I have some respect for, a little bit of respect for Sean Hannity. I kind of like Bret Baier. I think he's kind of an honest guy. But really, there's just not many people there at Fox I care much about. Don't like O'Reilly. Can't stand Megan Smelly, Shep Smith. I just don't like these people. I don't know what it is. I just don't like them. I get most of my information from the internet anyway. But anyway, I just thought that just in general the corporate media was just horrible, and I thought the independent media did a much better job. A lot of people in the independent media predicting Trump would win. It was just a matter of how big. So it's not like the corporate media says that no one saw it coming. Many people saw the Trump victory coming. And I think what would be really funny, in fact, if I were president, I don't expect Trump will do this, but if I were president, what I would do is I would direct my press secretary to revoke the press credentials to certain networks in my administration. I wouldn't allow them in the press briefings. I wouldn't even admit them as journalists, because to me, they have given up all their journalistic principles, and in my mind, do not qualify as journalists. My first day in office, if I were President Trump, I would direct my press secretary to revoke the press credentials of ABC, NBC, CBS, NBC, especially CNN, definitely the Young Turks. And instead, I would give press credentials to H.A. Goodman, Stix Hexenheimer 666, Stefan Molyneux, maybe even Alex Jones. And Alex Jones, I did go over and check some of their coverage. They actually have a couple people over there at Alex Jones that I think do a pretty good job. And my thoughts on Alex are I generally like Alex. I think his heart's in the right place. It's just he's really over the top a lot of the time. And I can't stand to watch him interview people because he just talks over people so much. It just really annoys me. But he has some pretty good people over there. I like a couple of the new people he's got there. Owen Schroyer and Margaret Howe. I think McAdoo does okay. I like Rob Dew. I like some people there at Alex Jones. And they're far better than the Young Turks. Far better. But anyway, if I were the press secretary for Donald Trump, I would revoke the press credentials of nearly all of the corporate media. I just wouldn't allow them in the press briefings. I would just, say, I'm sorry, but we're not giving you press credentials. I would put them on probation for a year. I would say, we'll monitor you for the next year, and if you actually start practicing honest journalism, we'll consider reinstating your press privileges. But in the meantime, CNN, we're going to give your press credentials to the Alex Jones Network. We're going to give your press credentials to H.A. Goodman, Stefan Molyneux, and many others. There's a lot of good independent media outlets out there who are far more deserving of press credentials. And maybe we could actually get some people in the press briefings who could actually ask some real questions. Because it's one of the things that frustrates me most watching these press briefings is that, there's a guy from AP that actually is pretty good. I don't know his name, but he's pretty good. And the girl from RT is pretty good. But they ask real questions, and so they get stonewalled. So I'm really hoping that a Trump administration, that we're going to see something a lot different. I'm hoping that in the Trump administration, we're going to see press spokespeople who, when they're asked hopefully a real question, we'll get a real answer. And instead of a spun, dancing around, and not really answering the question. I just hate that. So anyway, that's what I would be hoping for. And if I were the press secretary for Trump, I would be revoking a lot of press credentials to the corporate media. They're dinosaurs anyway. They're dying anyway. No one cares what they think. They always get it wrong anyway. So anyway, my general idea of the video was just to give an analysis of the corporate media versus the independent media. And by far, the independent media did a much, much better job. The corporate media is pitiful. I mean, they're literally pitiful. And they're dying, and I'm so happy for it. Let's see. I think that just about covers it. One last thing before I go. Just wanted to say thank you to all the people who went out and supported Trump and worked for Trump. Really made a difference in this election. I hear a lot of people who will tell me a lot of the time that, gee, I don't vote. My vote doesn't count. It doesn't matter if we vote. And I think this election really proved that it does matter. Yeah, I know elections are rigged. Yeah, I know all this kind of stuff. But the fact is, we proved yesterday that if you go out and vote in overwhelming numbers, you can overcome the voter fraud, election fraud, and all the other things that go on and have always gone on in elections, whether it's in the United States or anywhere else in the world. Establishments always try to do everything they can to rig things so that establishment politicians get reelected. It's always gone on, and it always will. But if you come out in large enough numbers and get behind someone, you can certainly defeat the system and beat it. And we did it yesterday. And we actually had a candidate worth supporting. The last two meaningful votes I cast were 2008 and 2012 when I cast votes in the primary for Ron Paul. But honestly, in 2008 and 2012, I just voted for third-party candidates. I consider myself more of a libertarian, but I couldn't support Gary Johnson. I preferred Trump over Gary Johnson this year, so that's why I was on the Trump train. Anyway, congratulations to everybody. Great job. Looking forward to a Trump administration, and hopefully, maybe we'll get Attorney General Giuliani and we'll lock her up. See ya.